everybody. Just so you know, just if you can hear me, give me a smiley face so I know the audio is good this time. Just tweaking things before we get started. Making sure the audio is good. So if you can hear me and it sounds good to you, give me a thumbs up, give me a smiley, anything. Nice. Veda, can you hear me okay? Veda, if you can hear the audio okay, give me a smiley face, okay? Okay, great. Thank you, ma'am. Everybody make sure you got your paper towels and your water ready to go. And we'll get started. We're going to give people till about 7:05, and hopefully we'll get the rest of everyone in here. I really should have had some music or something playing, but I didn't want to junk up the audio too much. So this is my second class ever using this document viewer, so still working out any kind of kinks that may happen, but so far it's been okay. The only problem I have with it so far is the orientation likes to stay horizontal. So I actually have a pretty long canvas, and unfortunately if I rotate it, the whole thing rotates with me. So we'll, since we're only focusing on certain parts at a time, we'll, it won't be an issue. We'll just slide the canvas around so you can see it. And I will warn you, there is a little bit of a lag. So, like the video that I see has about a 5 second, like a 3 to 5 second lag. So, like I moved my camera about 5 seconds ago, and you're probably just seeing it now. So that's fun. So if you're just joining us, make sure to give us a thumbs up when you are ready to go. I'm going to give it till about 7:05 just to make sure everybody's in here and can hear me okay. So you all have your paint ready to go and your water and paper towels, all that fun stuff. So just when you're ready to go, you just give me a thumbs up. I think the weirdest thing about doing the Facebook Live is not being able to hear everyone's voices. I'm so used to doing video classes and classes in person. So it's really strange not to have that instant feedback from people. So if you're just joining us, we've got 4 in here right now. Just give us a thumbs up when you are ready to go. That way I know that you can hear me and that you have everything ready to go, and we'll get started. So as soon as everybody gives me a thumbs up. And if you can't find the thumbs up, you can just send me an emoji. A little smiley face or something. Just the okay or something. Nice, Miss Wendy. Say Wendy's ready to go. So while we're waiting, I know we've got some locals, but is there anybody not in North Carolina or not in the Wilkes County area? All right, everybody. Well, it is 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. Sun's going down. So let's get to painting as long as everybody's okay to start. I didn't get thumbs up from everybody, so if you are not ready to start, please just send me a little message, or you can comment there and, just put a stop sign or a frowny face or something. But we're going to get started, so that way we can get done. It takes usually about an hour and a half. And this painting, we're starting to get ready for Halloween, and what better to celebrate Halloween than black cats and pumpkins and starry skies. So that's what inspired me for this painting. I've always loved Starry Night and cats, of course. And so I was like, oh, well, this will be fun. So I really wanted to do this. And so I hope you all enjoy. If you ever have any questions, or, you need me to stop or repeat something, please just put a comment there. I can see everything on there. It's weird not hearing people's voices. So, if you need me to do something, just tell me. So, all right, we'll get started. I hope everybody has their big brush and their small brush. Ideally, this is not the brush I wanted to use for doing cats. I much prefer a small flathead brush. But this is all that I had at my fingertips, so I was like, okay, we'll just go with this. I've got my water, got my paper towels, got my paints. A word about the paints. I don't know what kind of paint that y'all are using. I like to use just kind of a medium grade paint. This is just from my shop. The good thing about using a medium grade paint is it is thin enough to work with without feeling like you're gluing it on. And then also thick enough where you're not feeling like you're painting with soup. So, a lot of the times when I get the paint in the tubes from like Walmart or Dollar Store or somewhere, you end up with a thinner paint, and unless you're wanting to work thicker, you're going to end up with a flatter surface. And, the thinner paint's really nice, especially for mixing, for doing like fluid acrylics and stuff like that. But for this purpose, I'm just shooting for a medium thickness paint, something that's going to go on smooth and not get a little crazy. So the colors we're going to start with blue and purple. And you're probably going to have a little bit different turnout than mine. And mine's probably going to turn out different than the one I used for my picture. Because the paints that I have at home are not the same paints that I have at work. So the colors are a little bit different. I tried to match them as close as possible to what I used, because I actually did the painting at the shop. But so I ended up with a little bit lighter blue than the one that I used. And if you'll notice my canvas here, I am using an 11 by 14 stretch canvas. You can't see it all in this viewer because it's a horizontal, but I will scoot it up as we're working down, so you'll be able to see everything. That's as far as I can and zoom out on this particular document viewer. The reason my canvas, you might notice, has a bit of a purple color to it. I actually painted over a previous painting. I did a couple of coats of white. I did not have any gesso with me, which would have been better, like a primer. And yeah, I probably would not have ended up with these purple marks on here from the painting underneath. But this particular painting I've done several times, and canvas is canvas sometimes, especially when you're teaching a class. So I just covered it up. So that's why it's a little purple. So, but it's not going to matter in the long run because we're going to cover it anyway. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take our big brush, and we are actually, I am breaking my own rules here. We're not going to start with blue and purple. I forgot. We're going to outline a little bit first. So first thing we're doing, we're going to take yellow, because if yellow mixes with our sky colors, it's just going to get kind of greenish. It's not really going to bother anything. Whereas like if we used orange or something like that, wherever we had something else mix in, it would get brown and kind of muddy looking. So we're going to use yellow to do our outlining. For this particular painting, I felt like it was a nice thing to do, was to outline. That way you kind of set up your boundaries and your composition of your painting. So that way you don't end up mixing colors that shouldn't be together, just because we're working with wet paint here. In an hour and a half, that's not nearly enough time for paint to dry. So for, if we were doing this by ourselves at home or whatever, we would have drying time in between and it wouldn't be so much of an issue. But for tonight, we are not going to be doing that. So I'm taking some of my yellow. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a dirty yellow. I used it last night in a different class, but paint's paint. So I've got yellow here, and the first thing we're going to do is we are going to mark where our moon is going to be. And this will help us keep our moon nice and bright and light. And you want to have it separate from the sky that we're going to be doing, because the sky is kind of doing its own thing. So pick how big you want your moon. I'm just going to do a big circle up here in the corner. If you want a crescent moon, you are more than welcome to do a crescent moon. Just do you like a little croissant shape up here. But I liked a full moon. I thought it was nice and Halloween-y. And we're just going to go on and fill it in. And one reason that it's good to go on and do this is thinking again about our wet paint. By the time we come back to our moon, this is going to be dry because we're not doing it very thick. We have it laid out here. I'll pull my canvas down a little bit. We have it here, and so we know to go around it when we're doing our sky, and it'll just be easier this way. Another thing that we are going to outline is we're going to go on and put our separation between our sky and our pumpkins, and that'll be further down. Pretty much with this painting, the bottom, I would say 1/3 to 1/2 of your painting is going to be pumpkins and grass, because these pumpkins are pretty large. I probably did not mean to make them quite as large as I did, but if you want small pumpkins, that's up to you. So I'm going to come down to this bottom third here, and I'm going to go on and sketch out my horizon, if you will, of where my pumpkins will be. So for this one, I did an upright, smaller pumpkin, and then I did a big middle pumpkin that the cat's going to be sitting on. That's kind of in the middle here. And then I actually did a pumpkin that's laying on its side. And it's okay if this is not perfect. Like I said, this is just your outline. It's just creating boundaries so you know kind of what areas to stay away from with your blue. Because like I said, once the blue mixes with the orange of your pumpkins, it's going to get very brown. And you don't want brown pumpkins. You don't want your pumpkins being rotten. We're going to keep this painting bright and cheerful and Halloweeny. So they look kind of like weird lumpy mountains or something right now. We're not even going to fill them in. We're just doing a line here because below this line is just going to be pumpkins and grass. You don't have to worry anything about your sky or anything like that. So yeah, that's my bottom third of the canvas. So once you get that done, you can go on and we can rinse the yellow out of our brush because we're not going to need it for a little while. So that's what we're going to do. So rinsing, rinsing, rinsing. The best way to rinse your brush out is to swirl it on the bottom of your jar and kind of dig in a little bit. And then you want to rake it on the side of your cup, and you want to make sure that you pat it dry really well, because any extra moisture that you get in your paint is going to be very runny. We're not working with watercolors. So the water actually will make your acrylic paint separate and it'll get really gross. So unless you're wanting a drippy painting, just dry off your brush. Another good reason to dry off your brush is you can make sure there's no paint. See, like it came off clear. If there had been a color on here, that means I didn't rinse it good enough. But that's what we're doing there. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to go for blue. So I'm getting my blue here because we're going to work on our sky. Again, something that would be different than if I were doing this painting not in an hour-long session. Generally, I wouldn't do background and foreground separately. Generally you want to work them both at the same time so they feel more incorporated. We don't have that kind of time. So, and this is just a fun, easy painting for you to do and not, complex at all. So we're doing our blues. We're going to our sky. I thought it was really nice. Starting over in your top left corner, over here opposite from your moon, because it is still drying. We're going to leave it alone for a little bit, maybe 5 minutes or so. So we're going to start with our blue. And we're going to come in with our blue. And your blue is probably different from my blue, and that's okay. That is just fine. So we are going to work in some blue here. Nice bright blue. And we're going to bring it kind of in a circle around the moon here. So filling in with the blue. Because we're going to kind of keep our purples around the moon. And then we're going to end up swirling a little bit. So I actually need more blue. So let me get that. Takes more blue than you think it does. And a good rule of thumb to know if you have enough paint on your canvas is if your brush has any friction. So like you can tell even in these patchier spots, that your brush is going to have more friction against your canvas, which usually means you need more paint, because the paint will create a smooth texture here. And mine, especially since mine has a painting underneath, will actually have more friction than if I were to just use, one that I got straight from the store or something. So I'm just working in some of this blue. We're just getting some of this white canvas covered. It's important when you're doing your painting to kind of lay down your groundwork. Pretty much anything that we're putting down right now is going to get covered back over. So all it is laying your groundwork, getting your boundaries marked out and your composition mapped in here. And it's okay if it's not a perfect circle. Once we add in this purple, it's not going to matter at all. So I'm just filling in here with some blue. You can do however much blue you want to. If you want a more purple sky, that's completely up to you. This is a very strong blue here. That's okay though. And see, now I'm going to get towards these lumpy mountains here. Believe it or not, I need more blue. Crazy. And one reason I'm using more paint than I usually would, like I didn't use nearly this much paint last night for a different painting, is because of that friction. It's taking more to cover this canvas because it has a painting underneath. It's gonna fight you a little bit more. It's got more ridges to it. As far as your palette goes, I'm actually using a plastic lid to a cottage cheese container. Very, very high tech. I've seen people use all kinds of things for palettes. I've seen people get windows out of junkyards and use window panes and scrap pieces of paper and pieces of like planks of wood. Like it really, it's a personal preference. What you use for a palette, a paper plate is perfectly fine. I like using plastic just because when my paint dries, it kind of becomes plastic as well, especially with the acrylics. So you end up with this really easy to peel off layer. That's really nice. Okay, so I've filled in here with my blue. And now I am gonna choose not to rinse my brush out. If that bothers you, then please feel free to rinse your brush. Just make sure that you dry it off well. My thought process is I like to use whatever paint is on my brush generally, especially if it works well with the next color I'm going to be using, which we are going to be using purple next. And I already can tell I'm going to need more purple, so I'm going to go on and squirt some more out here. So, okay, I got my purple here. All right, now our purple, we can go on and go around our moon. It's okay if it starts mixing with that yellow a little bit, but you want to try to avoid it as much as possible. So I'm just trying to keep this purple as clean as possible right now, especially around this yellow moon. Because once this purple mixes with this yellow, it is going to turn, it kind of turns like a weird grayish color, I guess you'd call it. Kind of like a grayish brownish color. And, it's okay if your circles a little bit messed up. We're going to come, like I said, this is just our groundwork. We're going to come back in and fix anything like that. This is just putting some color down. Now this is going to be the fun part here. We're going to take some of this purple, and when we start getting in with this blue, you can start making some texture and making some swirls, because that's what gives you the starry night look, is mixing these colors, getting the streaks in there. So we're going to start by mixing some of this purple in with this blue, because we're working with wet paints. And we're just going to start, I like making kind of a swirl around the moon, because it's this nice halo around the moon. But we're going to do other things with it as well. And my paint, this paint that I'm using, is drying super fast. I don't know if it's because that can actually happen if you have a painting underneath. And so like the paint that I used to cover my previous painting can actually absorb the moisture out of your current paint. I'm actually adding a little bit of blue in here because mine is not wet anymore already, believe it or not. So see how dry that is, how much friction I'm getting? This is going to look completely different than the other one. And yours is probably going to look a little bit different too, depending on how wet your paint is. But right now we're just kind of doing our swirlies. We're doing this nice kind of, see, we're getting some mixing in here and some streaking. So we're keeping a nice clean purple circle around our moon. But we're also working in some of this blue here. And I'm getting my sides here a little bit. And I'm also going to go on and put some purple down below. In this particular painting, I thought it was really nice to kind of have a wind effect, a kind of swirly. This is kind of a free range part of the painting. The sky is a very loose thing. It doesn't have to look just like mine. You can put swirls where you want to. Mine, see, look how dry that is. That's just amazing to me. That paint has dried so fast. Look at this. It's like it's not even dry at all. I mean, excuse me, it's not even wet at all. That's crazy. So yeah, I'm adding some purple swirls down here. And then I'm going to start to do, we're going to do some stars up in here. But just to kind of outline where I want the stars to go, you can start doing some swirls up in your sky. Just some circles, some swirls to kind of mimic that halo that's around the moon. I'm just kind of leaving some stripes right now. So I've kind of got these nice stripies going with the blue and the purple. And the next thing that we're going to work into our starry night sky, we're going to get some white. So if you would like to rinse out your brush, again, you can. I'm not going to, just because this is pretty much, I feel pretty confident that I can get some white out of here and still leave some area not with blue in it. Because as soon as I put this blue brush in this white paint, I'm going to get blue in it. But that's okay for this purpose. If you were using something that you wanted to keep your white paint as clean as possible, you would probably want to put it on your palette just to kind of keep your colors separate a little bit. Let me try and straighten this canvas up here so you can see better. Okay, now mine is going to be probably a little different than yours. Just this paint is just crazy drying. So I'm probably going to end up having to mix some more blue in with this so it's not so stark white. You probably won't. So we are going to use this white to kind of create some nice swirls. And you want it to mix with your purples and your blues. Like I said, mine is not going to be doing that because my paint is drying so fast. But hopefully yours is. I'm going to have to add some blue back into mine. The white is a nice movement indicator, I guess you would call it. It's just going to help highlight some of this starry night we've got going on here. I'm sorry this looks so dry brushed on here, but it's just because of the paint. So I'm just going to go on and do it as is, and yours is probably going to look better than mine just because your paint's going to mix more. So yeah, I've got the halo around the moon here. I'm actually going to get a little white. And this nice white, it's going to give a lot of movement to our sky. And it kind of gives it a nice fantasy look as well. Just a nice glow and a nice movement. But like I said, you don't want it super stark white because then it starts getting a little bit stripy. And unless you like that, like mine's getting too stripy, I'm gonna add some more blue in mine because my paint is drying like crazy. So yeah, see, yours is probably doing something more like this because your paint is probably not nearly as dried as mine. So that's the kind of thing you want it to do. You want it to be streaky without being stripy. Got a little tongue-tied. And it'll just give a really nice movement to your sky here. So I'm working up here. I'm adding more blue in because my stupid paint's drying too fast. I'm going to have to add some more white here too. So if you see me changing colors, it's just because of my paint here. So, yep, see, ending up with streaks, not stripes. Excuse me, knocked my camera. And here I'm going to put a little more purple. Because having to add that blue in, I got a little too much blue. So we're going to keep this a more blue area, a more purple area. Down here will be a really nice kind of horizon-y area here with our nice halo around our moon. Hopefully y'all are all doing okay right now. Add a little more purple over here. See, and you kind of lose that white a little bit, and you may end up having to mix it back in a little bit. I love working with these colors because it literally does not matter as far as these are all very happy colors together. They don't mind being together. It's a happy marriage, I guess. See, we got nice swirlies going on here. Do a little more of a white halo around my moon, just because our moon is our main source of light in our starry night. then once we get that done, we are actually going to go on and switch to our, actually, no, let's hold off on the stars for right now. I feel like we need to let this kind of set in. We're going to let this dry a little bit. We're going to move on. Of course, mine's going to dry instantly just because this paint. That's okay. All right. So we're going to rinse our brush out. I've got a weird little, sorry, I've got like a little crusty thing going on there. Okay. I'm going to rinse our brush out because the next thing we're going to work on is our pumpkins. And you do not want purple and blue in your pumpkins, believe me. Your pumpkins will rot so fast. So make sure you got all your blues and your purples. And I'm going to go on and move my canvas up a little bit. Switch it to a different palette here. So excuse me, I hope it's not too jarring. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Move the microphone out of the way. Okay. Because we're going to work on the bottom third now. So cleaning out our big brushes. And we're going to start to work on some orange pumpkins. If you don't have any orange, because some of you may only have primary colors, you know, you can always make it up. Just a little bit of red and quite a bit of yellow will give you a really nice orange. And I still, look at this, still have blue in my brush. So back for another dip. Another scrape on the bottom of my jar here. As far as painting cups go, personally, I like to repurpose, sounds silly, but I like to repurpose pickle jars. I like using glass for my water just because it's got a nice weight to it. I don't have to worry as much about it tipping over. Whereas like I've used plastic cups before, paper cups of course, and they all have they're very lightweight, and especially if you let your long-handled brush sit in your lightweight water jar, it will tip over. So if any of y'all are using those, please be careful. But yeah, mason jars are good. I like mason jars. Cans are okay if you like cans. It's just a lot of people don't have like coffee cans anymore. Especially if you're working with oil paint, coffee cans are great. Especially for putting solvents and things in. It's a lot safer than glass. Okay, so moving on to our pumpkins. Excuse me. It would not be Halloween without pumpkins. So I've got a different kind of paint, thank goodness, for my pumpkins. So that's a nice medium orange. If you like your pumpkins, a little more yellow or anything like that, you can do them whatever color pumpkins. You can do a white pumpkin. I'm going to tell you can't do a white pumpkin, but I'm going to be doing orange. So we're going to shape out our mounds here, our lumpy hills. And we're going to start with, I like starting with my furthest back pumpkin. So for me, the furthest back one is going to be this one on the left. And I'm staying away from the blue right now. And I'm just going to have it come about like that. And then you can go on and touch the blue. And look how it breaks. And you can give it a little bit of a lumpy top I wouldn't worry too much about making lines or anything yet because we haven't quite gotten to that yet. Right now we're just laying the base for our pumpkins, getting a nice orange down there, and then I'll start to set a little bit so we can keep moving on. I'm going to do this right one next, and this will be the one that's kind of on its side. So it's a little bit bumpier because you see a little more of the ridges. So you can kind of get some more bumps in there. And it's a little bit of a squatter pumpkin here since it's laying on its side. And a good thing about pumpkins is they don't really have a perfect shape. So you don't have to worry about it too much. And it's okay if you're seeing a line right now. Like I said, this is just the base for our pumpkin. So, you know, we're going to be doing more to it here. So that's what we're doing there. And then our nice big pumpkin, our main pumpkin, if you will, that the kitty cat is sitting on. And you know what? You may be wondering why we did not put an outline for the cat. I have a reason for that. The reason for that is the cat is black. So if he were a white cat or even a tabby cat or something like that, we should have done an outline for the cat. Since he is black, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because this paint is going to dry a little bit by the time we get to the cat. So that black paint is going to go on top of this sky, no problem. If it does get a little bit of the blue mixed in for some reason, you know, if it's still a little damp or something, just enough to mix, that's fine. You can always, you know, the good thing about black paint is you can always put more black paint on more black paint. It's just, since we're still working with all of this wet paint, I like to stay away from the black paint. To me, the black paint, you know, there's too much danger involved. It's a really fast way to ruin a painting, or at least one that you're doing in an hour with wet paint. Here, we're gonna outline our big pumpkin here. And he kind of overshadows the other pumpkins here. He kind of overlaps them a little bit. We're just laying this groundwork here. But I wouldn't make them perfect circles. You know, I've never seen a perfectly circular pumpkin ever. They always have a little more personality when they have some bumps and things like that. Then you want to kind of get up into your side just to make sure you've got a nice overlap there. So we've got our nice orange pumpkins. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to mess them up. That's what we're going to do. I'm just filling in here, making sure I have enough paint, because this next part you're going to want, you want your paint to be pretty wet for this part. So I'm just making sure my paint's going to actually stay wet this time. Okay, so rinse out the orange. Rinse out the orange of your pumpkins here. And we are going to go on and put some green down for our grass. And you'll see what I mean by messing up the pumpkins here in a second. because the green of the grass makes a really nice way to shadow and to shade your pumpkins. So we're going for our green. All right. So we got our green. Mine's just a Kelly green. If you have a darker green or something like that, you know, that's great. Any colored green you want to do. I would stay probably away from yellow, but it doesn't really matter. We're just going to put some green down here, and we're going to mess up our pumpkins a little bit. So starting from the bottom, this is important. We're going to start from the bottom with our green, away from the pumpkins. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in here with our green as our base coat for our grass. And we're staying away from the pumpkins just until we get this covered. Okay. Filling in with this grass. It's okay. My paint's a little bit thin. That's okay. We're doing more groundwork. Doing more base. Okay. So here we go. We're going to mess up these pumpkins here. So, because the next thing you're going to do, you're going to take some green, and we're going to outline the bottom of these pumpkins, and we're going to start getting some of this shadow in here. And our grass is coming up in our pumpkin patch. So we're going to do a little flick of the wrist like that. We're going to do some grass coming up here. So it's kind of like drawing lines, except you're not doing a smooth motion like you would be if you were drawing a line. This is more of like a quick little flick. So you're going to flick and get some of that green up into your pumpkin. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to outline the bottom of our pumpkin here. Like I said, he doesn't have to be a perfect circle or anything like that. And then we're going to do some flicking of the green up into here. And you can do it both ways. It doesn't have to go one way. Grass can go any way. It's going to mess up those pumpkins a little bit. So we're outlining our pumpkins, and then we're doing the grass, flicking that grass up there. And creates a really nice texture there. And that, believe it or not, is just our base texture for our grass here. Because this is not what grass would be like. And you wouldn't have like a solid blob here. And we're gonna do a little bit more with it. So that's what that is. And we're also gonna take some of this green, and we're gonna go on and put some shadows on these pumpkins here. So this big pumpkin is creating some shadows on these smaller pumpkins. So we're gonna kind of go around the middle pumpkin here. And you see how that green is breaking your orange, and it kind of creates, this is why we're keeping colors that don't like to be together away from each other, because this is what happens. They get muddy like this. But for this kind of purpose, we want this to happen. So we're kind of creating a shadow here with these broken colors. We're going to do it over here too. We're going to outline this big pumpkin like that, and kind of put a little bit of a shadow here on this pumpkin like that. And believe it or not, we can get some more green, and you can go on and do some lines on your pumpkin. So this one is turned up, so you can do, I'm doing this with the big brush. If you feel more comfortable with your smaller brush for this, you can. I'm just going on and doing this I'll come back with it, the smaller one here soon. So we're just going to go on and do a few green lines. And this is not going to be the final on these pumpkins. I'm just kind of creating a little bit of a shadow on these pumpkins here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. So we're just creating some lines on here. You don't want a ton, but just enough to give some shadows for your pumpkins, and it'll give you a little more of a depth here, a little bit of character for your pumpkins. So that's what we're doing there. All right. And after you get done that, we can go on and rinse the green out of our brush. I've got too much green on here. I'm gonna mix some into my grass a little bit more, just because I've got too much on here. I don't like putting a lot of paint in my water because it gets nasty really fast. They're getting that green out now. And now we're going to come back with yellow, because we've added our shadows, and now it's time to come back in with our light. And I always tell my students, it's all about contrast. You usually start with a middle ground, and things really pop when you add contrast. When you're adding the shadows and the light, it really makes things stand out and gives you something interesting to look at. Make sure you dry your brush off. Right now I'm going to stick with my my big brush. Hopefully you don't have I'm seeing a lot of glare. Let me know if you're getting a lot of glare. I'm done with my green for right now. So we're going for a yellow. All right, and we're going to get our yellow here, and we're going to do some more of that grass flicking down here. But first, while we have a clean yellow on our brush, before we get too messy with it, we're going to take some of this yellow and we're going to add a little bit of highlighting on our pumpkins here, especially like when the moon is shining down. We're going to add especially some light here on this middle pumpkin where that moon is hitting it. And then if you think about it, the moon is coming and kind of casting some light on the front parts of these pumpkins. So just creating a little bit of light here, a little bit of contrast with that shadow that we did. And it's okay if you get some more of that paint. We're working with wet paint here. It's going to get a little messy. So I'm just adding some highlights. And you can add however much you want to there. I'm just kind of touching where I think the moon would hit. And now we are going to do our little flicking motion in our grass some more, and this will give some more depth to our grass. You can put it up on your pumpkins a little bit. Our green should still be wet, so it's going to mix in there so we don't end up with just one color green of grass, because when did you ever see one color of grass that wasn't spray painted? We're just doing our little flicking motions here with our yellow, just adding a little more character to our grass here. So that's what that's doing. And right now, it looks pretty yellow. Don't worry, we're going to come back in with some blue here in a little bit. Actually, we could probably go on, but you know what? We're going to switch to our smaller brush next. And I think it's time for us to do some stars while this is setting up. Okay, so we're going to go on and rinse our big brush out. And we probably will not be using our big brush again. So you can kind of put it to the side or leave it in your water if you feel comfortable doing that. Okay. And you know what? While our grass is still wet, let's get some blue. We're going to get some blue on our small brush. Hopefully y'all are good. If I'm going too fast, please just tell me to slow down, or you know, if you need me to repeat anything, just let me know, okay? So small brush, we got some blue. We're going to do some more character here with our grass while it's still wet, because you don't want super blue grass. This blue is going to create a nice shadow effect with our grass, just giving it a little more depth, and ties back in the blues of our sky. And you don't want to add a lot of blue. Like I said, it's really more of a highlight to incorporate the colors of the sky, and it creates a nice cohesiveness and a different texture to the big brush movements that we have been doing here. Let me scooch up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So yeah, I'm really not doing a lot of the blue, just enough to tone down the yellow a little bit and add a little bit of shadow in here. So that's what the blue does here. You could add some of the purple, but it just gets a little crazy if you get too much going on here. So, yep, I'm just doing just the high points there, toning down the yellow a little bit and adding some shadows. Okay. And while we're also with our small brush here, I'm cleaning out my blue. Hopefully that's not too bright here. Trying to tone it down. Looks like I have a glare. Yeah. I'm going to go on and do the stems of the pumpkins. I told you we would come back with it with the smaller brush. So I'm going to do mine a green. If you have brown, you can do a brown. I'm doing mine a green just because it seems like they're still in the field. They've kind of been left out here. Yeah, I'm doing the green. So my pumpkin here, got my stem, little skewy stem here. The big one, you really don't see too much of a stem because the cat will be sitting on it. But you can kind of add a little dabble if you want to for, what the cat is sitting on. And then this one will have kind of our biggest stem here. So you can make it as corkscrewy or whatever you want to as possible here. And then if you see how dark it got here? That's because it's on this dark sky. So once we finish with that, we can also, you know what, I'm going to add a little bit more green lines. You can do a little more fine green lines if you want to. I, for one, lost a little bit when I was doing my yellow. And I got a little bit too much yellow over here, so it kind of helps tone that down. So, yep. You can do some more lines on your pumpkins if you want to. And then I'm gonna get rid of this green on my brush because we really don't need it anymore. And we're gonna go and get some yellow and put it on the stem there, because you can't even see that stem. It's the biggest stem you can see and you can't even see it. So this one right here, I'm gonna add some yellow to it. We're gonna highlight it a little bit here, especially the sun, or the moon's coming in here. We're gonna lighten up this green here. Add some highlight here. So, yep, highlighted, done. And I'm just gonna leave that one because you know, I feel like the moon's not even looking at it there. Okay, now for one of the fun parts, we get to move back up to our sky. So we're gonna go, come back up here to the sky. And we're gonna work on some stars. That's always fun. Me personally, for this particular painting, I did not splatter stars. You know, especially since I was doing it at the shop, I didn't want to make a huge mess on the carpet. But if you want to splatter stars, I'm not going to say you can't splatter your stars. I'm not going to splatter stars. So what I'm going to do is, where I've got this circle here, I'm going to put kind of an epicenter star here. So I'm just making a circle. And then you can make different sized circles around. I would get them on here as erratic as possible, because stars don't line up in grid formation or anything like that. You can do different sizes is very nice. You can do, see, just kind of however many you want to do. How many, you know, whatever size your brush will let you do. This is not my favorite brush for doing stars, but you know, it is what it is. We're just going to dabble some stars on here. Because what is Starry Night without some stars here? I'm going to leave the place where the cat's going to be. You want to stay away from that zone right now. So he doesn't get any stars right now. Just however much you want to do. There's no law to making stars on here. Just however much you're feeling. But it's very nice if you vary the sizing. You know, you get a nice depth here with your stars. You don't want to get huge with them because they are far away. But you can kind of cluster them or whatever you want to do. They're not, you know, mine aren't perfect or anything. Boom. Got stars. Staying away from the cat area. And like I said, you just want to kind of keep them pretty erratic. You don't want like a line of stars. Just kind of space them around willy-nilly. I like a lot of stars. You also want to stay around this rim around our moon because there's so much light coming from our moon. You're not going to see a lot of stars. Oh, shoot. I broke my own rule. This is where the cat goes. I got carried away with my stars. Don't put a star there. That's okay. I just did one, so it'll dry. Shame on me. And I like to do not as large as stars coming down toward your horizon line, because I feel like all the bigger stars would be up higher. Okay, now we're going to focus on our moon a little bit. You can switch to your big brush if you want to, but I'm going to maintain a little more control. It's not a big space, it's not a small space. So I'm just going to stick with my smaller brush. So we're going to fix the circumference of our moon. So this is the time, use your white. This is the time to get your moon as perfect as you want it to be, or imperfect. Your moon may be crashing down, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna have to move the camera up. Okay. Yeah. And I like putting the white down before I add any more yellow, especially on moons. It creates a really nice glow. So your moon isn't just yellow, your moon isn't just white. It kind of keeps you from getting like nasty colors in your moon. Purple is really nice for putting shadows in your moon. But for this particular one, we're going to keep it pretty bright. So I'm just fixing where I have the darker color coming in here. Just laying down a little bit of white. And also you can put in, I wouldn't cover all of this yellow, but if you want to kind of work in a little bit of white in here, like I said, it's going to give some nice variation to your moon. We are going to come back in with yellow here in a minute. But this is a nice kind of like reverse highlight we got going on here. And don't worry, like my paint got a little frictiony around the sides. Purple is really easy to put over the white of this moon, whereas the white is not easy to put over wet purple. So we're going to come back and fix around here, add some purple, clean it up a little bit, and it'll be fine. It's just really hard. That's why we're taking advantage of this purple being dry right now, as it should be pretty dry. And we're going on and fixing a little bit of our moon here. So next thing we're going to do is use some yellow. I'm not going to rinse my brush out, but you're welcome to. And this is where we kind of put in, like we're treating this yellow as kind of the shading in our moon, since our moon is so bright. So there's no set equation for how to do this yellow in this moon or anything. It's just a personal preference. If you would like your moon whiter, just add more white. That's fine. We're just keeping it as light as possible because it is one of the main focal points of this painting. A nice, nice moon for a spooky, spooky Halloween. And I'm really just using my yellow to cover up that base yellow that we laid down. And then make sure that it's nice and covered. I'm kind of keeping my rim pretty much white because it creates a nice glowing effect. So that's all we're doing there. Now, again, with the yellow, you can come back in and add a little bit of highlight to your stars. And it's just going to create a really nice glow. You don't want to do a lot, but you know, some of your main stars that are bigger, it's nice to put a little bit of a yellow on them. And just kind of mess it in there a little bit. I found out with my kids class, that if you put a dot in these, it looks like eggs. So we don't want a sky full of sunny side up eggs. So, and you can also do just some spots of yellow. Breaks up your stars a little bit, gives a little more depth. I wouldn't do a ton because then you kind of lose the highlighting effect of it. So just kind of a few here or there. And then when you're done with that, we can go on and rinse out. We're still going to use our small brush here because this is really our touch-up brush. It's for highlighting and for doing any kind of fine detail work and for doing touch-ups. So like right now, I'm going to work on touching up around the moon that we just did and kind of adding any kind of additional lines or anything that you want to, because once we put our cat in, it is near impossible to do any kind of line work or anything in the background. Plus, you know, with the cat being here, you don't want to mess him up. So, you know, anything you want to do in your sky, now is the time. The very last thing we're going to be doing is the cat, because he really is just kind of the stamp, the Halloween last hurrah, I guess you'd call him. So I'm going to go on and add some purple and fix this circle around my moon. So that's what I'm going to do. You may not need to fix up your moon. Okay. I had to get more purple. So I'm going to come around my moon here very carefully. I'm going to touch it up and get a nice clean line around my moon. If you want to mess your moon up, you can put some more white and do some more halo circles around your moon and kind of work your moon outward with your white. But I'm going to create a nice little since this paint dries so fast, I'm gonna go on and do this part and then add the other. So this will give me some wet paint to work with here. All right. So now got some purple. I'm actually going to use some of this purple too to fix my halo around my star. I wasn't too happy with the way my star looked. So I'm just going to add a little bit of purple in here. Yours, you may be fine with yours. But like I said, this is your last chance to get your sky how you want it. So anything you want to change, now is the time. Okay. Because once this cat's on here, all bets are off. So you do you and fix anything you want to fix, and then we will get to Mr. Kitty Cat. See, I'm having to add a little bit more blue in here. Mess up this a little bit here. I wouldn't have had such a problem if this paint hadn't dried so fast. But it did. You can add a little blue in here if you want to. This is really just, like I said, this is your chance to get your sky how you like it. So I'm going to put I'm going to keep some of this blue on my brush and put some white in here because I don't really want a stark white around here. But like I said, the smaller brush is for touching up, for fixing anything that needs a little more refinement. It's getting a little bit green around here, but that's all right as long as it doesn't get super green. I'm going to go on and do some white, adding a little more halo here. Except, you know what? I'm going to have to add more purple because I think that blue is going to get too blue. So I put some white in here with my purple, and I'm just going to kind of fix my halo here. I'm not very happy with it here. So putting some white with my halo. And that'll really have a nice shine coming out from the moon here. Nice glow. And that purple really makes that yellow moon really pop. See? And you can do some more lines, more little wavy wind lines if you need to. Cover up any stars you don't like. I mean, this really is your chance. Your last chance with the sky here. I've finally decided I do not like this paint that I got off of Amazon. I will not be getting that again. Okay, so pretty pleased with that. It is what it is. Make sure my star's not too, yeah, it's pretty yellow. I'm gonna add a little more white back into my star here. And then, guess what? We're going to go into the cat. And then, believe it or not, we're going to be done. I hope y'all have enjoyed this painting. I really wanted to paint it, so I've been trying really hard to get people interested in it. Stupid. brush is a very, very coarse bristle brush, and it likes to shed. So that's what it's doing. It is. Oh, you know what? I'm going to add a little more white back into my moon too. Like I said, this is your last chance. Anything you want to do here. Like I said, you can add some purple into your moon if you would like some more shading, which I can show you how that looks. Because, you know, there is a little bit of darkness in the moon. So here, I'll show you how that looks. I'm going to add a little bit of purple to my white. And you just kind of work in a little bit of purple in your moon. Like I said, you don't want to add in a lot because you'll end up with a very broken looking moon. But just a little bit of highlight, or excuse me, shadows here can give it a little bit more of a personality, I guess you'd call it. And my paint is drying because that's what this one does. I'm just softening because that paint was so dry already. I'm just kind of softening with this white, and then I'm going to go back over it with some yellow, and then we'll be ready to do the cat, hopefully. I'm going to get some yellow here. I got too much white going on. And so you can still see that purple. It just creates a really nice shadow on your moon. It's also a really good way, like with watercolors and things, to shade anything that's yellow, just to add a little bit of purple into it. See, and if you get too much, you end up with this nastiness that I just did here. That's okay. Tis okay. We'll get it fixed up. That's what the white's for. So when it gets too dark, you just add some more brightness. Okay. Alright. And we're going to get ready to go for our cat, and then we'll be done. Okay. Got the moon. Okay. Alright, last chance. Last chance. I think we're good to go for the cat. So, the reason I leave the cat to the end is, one, to give this a chance to dry. And see, it's dry now. Even the star that I did not mean to put here is dry. Because you want a dry surface when you're putting a silhouette. And that's what this black cat is going to be. Is we're just doing him in silhouette. We're not doing any details of his face or anything. Silhouettes are really fun to work with. You can turn pretty much any landscape into a silhouette. I love doing sunscapes, nighttime scapes, or anything like that. You know, creates a really, really nice, easy thing to do. All right. This is not my favorite brush for doing this, just because the rounded tips are a little bit difficult for doing pointed ears. But you work with what you got sometimes. So our kitty cat, he is a very cute kitty cat. So we're going to start by doing his basic body shape. This cat has a little bit of a swagger. He's kind of got a little bit of a a wave about him. Always look for the movement of things and how we can break down into shapes or different just waves. So we're going to call him kind of an S wave. So that's how we're going to do this right side of his body. And I know it's a little nerve-wracking because you just spent all this time on your beautiful sky, and here you are, and wondering if you're going to mess it up with your cat. It's okay. The good thing about acrylic paint is it dries. And if you don't like your cat, you can paint your sky back over your cat and then try again. And it's a beautiful thing. You just go again. But for this part, we're going to do the S shape. And this is going to be his chin and the right side of his body. And I'm starting kind of as tall as I want my cat to be. I'm not making him quite to the moon. So I'm going to actually start at this dot. And we're going to do kind of an S shape here. So I like to start with, when I do animals, I like to do their movement shape. So this may not actually be what they look like, but it's kind of the motion that you get from them. So that's how we're going to start, by outlining our cat here. Starting with an kind of a funky looking S here. And then here's his butt. His little round butt sitting on a pumpkin. So we're just going to start with his little outline here. And then what happens is he's got his little legs stuck out here. So then it kind of becomes this nice spiral. See this nice kind of treble clef, if any of you play music. It's kind of a treble clef. So that's his legs stuck out there. And then we're kind of mimicking this curve we've got here. And we're doing kind of the opposite here. Filling them in. And see how nice it fills in now that all of this is dry. It's really nice. And then I actually left off his ears because, like I said, with this brush, it's really tricky. And I'm just kind of making sure I've got his little face the way I want it here. Mine ended up kind of a fat cat. But, you know, you can have poofy black cats here. We'll do his tail in a minute, but okay, here we go. I'm going to try and do his ears with this round tip brush. Hopefully he doesn't turn into a dog. And I'm going to have to make his ears bigger than before because, like I said, this cat got some heft. I'm doing his little triangle ears. And I could have elongated my S shape a little bit more to make him a slinkier cat. But that's just how we ended up this time. And then, actually, I'm going to bring this out a little bit. Since he's a chunkier cat, he needs more of his proportions are a little off here. So my chunky cat here. His round tip ears. Stupid brush. And his leg coming out here a little bit more. He's a little bit of a chunky cat. Kind of looks like a squash. And then we're going to do his tail. His tail is another S shape. And if you want to do a fluffy cat, you can do a fluffy cat. I have to make his tail a little bit thicker since I've got a thicker cat going on here. So now I've got my chunky cat sitting on the pumpkin. Yeah, he definitely ended up more squash-like than I had painted him before. But that's okay. He's a Halloween cat. Okay, there's my squash cat. Okay, squash cat. Okay, now once you get done with filling in your black cat, and you get him how you want him, we're going to come back and we're going to add some shadow, because right now it looks like he is floating like a genie on this pumpkin. And you don't want your cat to be floating like a genie. Trying to get his ears as pointed as possible with this round tip brush, and it's not working for me. But like I said, if you're not happy with him, paint over him when he's dry and go again. So I may not be super happy with him, but that's how he turned out tonight. So we're taking our small brush after we have done our cat. And we got to anchor him. We're going to anchor him on this pumpkin. So I'm actually going to do green, because we've done a lot of green shading on this pumpkin. So that's what I'm going to do. And you know what? This is probably dry now. So if it gives you trouble, you can mix in some blue. Or a little bit of that black, honestly. Because this green's probably going to end up too bright since my paint's dry. So I'm going to go on and preemptively add a little bit of this black in. Actually, no, nix that. I'm not going to add the black. I don't want mud. Nix that. We're going to add blue. Blue and green. Add a little bit of blue to this green. We're going to make his little rump anchored here on this pumpkin. So we're going to outline his butt a little bit here. So that way he's got some shadow. And we're just kind of make him a little shadow on this pumpkin. Like that. But we're only going to do it on one side because that light's coming in. And if you want to add a little bit of that black in, I'm not going to stop you. Maybe I'll add some into myself. Sure, why not? We'll add some black. Why not? Might as well. Add a little shadow here. And that way, your cat actually looks like he is sitting on the pumpkin and not floating on it like a genie. You just want your shadow to be darker than what you have it on, but lighter than what's casting it here. So, and if you are happy with yours, you have successfully done your Starry Night kitty cat. Very chunky kitty cat in my case, but there he is. Let's see if I can zoom out so you can see him a little bit more. And, you know, it just goes to show you no matter how many times you paint something, it turns out different every time. So I want to thank you all for joining me, and I hope you had fun. I hope you learned a little something. I hope you have a very happy Halloween, and I hope that you will join me again for another one of these sessions. I don't know how many people we have out of town, but just spread the word. You know, the good thing about these is you can do them anywhere as long as you have the supplies and something to go by. So, you know, I would love to see your paintings if y'all want to post them in the event chat. You know, take a picture of your painting. I want to see how y'all did. I'm excited to see, you know, what your interpretation of all this is. And, you know, if you have anything that bothered you or, you know, any kind of feedback for me, I'm still tweaking these, and I would love to hear back from you. So please don't be afraid to speak your mind. And I had so much fun. I wish I could hear everyone's voices and see your beautiful faces, but that's just how this works. So y'all have a very happy Halloween, and show me those paintings. I want to see them. All right. You guys have a good night. It was fun painting with everybody.